Hey Nature Detectives, I'm Conrad at Letchworth State Park, and today I have a nature mystery for you. The trees growing in this part of Letchworth, right near the Middle Falls, are growing in a really funky pattern. I think we can use a nature tool to figure out why the trees are growing like this and how that helps us every single day. We'll use just one nature tool to do that, and that's our eyes. The first nature clue that we of course notice in this area is the giant waterfall. Middle Falls is the largest waterfall in Letchworth State Park by any measure. It's the tallest and it's the widest. Middle Falls has so much water activity going on around it that it can change its environment. This is a really unique habitat area and geologic area in Letchworth State Park because of the influence of Middle Falls here. And it's really important with a lot of nature mysteries to notice where we are and what the environment is like. The second nature clue that we notice about these trees is that their growth habit has a hanging branch. A lot of these broadleaf trees have dangling, hanging branches, and they're not just hanging with their own weight. They're twisted in a sort of Dr. Seuss-y kind of yoga pose kind of thing. They have these strange angles, mostly descending down, and sometimes coming back up, as if the trees are growing downwards and then struggling at the tips to grow back up. To have lots of different kinds of trees, lots of different branches doing that and drooping down is unusual. And the third nature clue we notice about these trees is that most of them are alive. Sometimes trees that are bending in a strange pattern are so stressed that they don't survive for very long. But all of these trees in this area have at least a few branches that have that interesting pattern, and they all seem to be doing pretty well. Let's put all those nature clues together. These are mostly healthy trees that are mostly maples and oaks, but all broadleaf trees, and they're growing with a descending branching pattern, with the branches going down. We're right next to a big old waterfall. These branches are descending because of ice buildup. It's hard to imagine because it's such a warm summer day today, but in the winter, this whole area is a winter wonderland. The mist, as it falls onto the surrounding rocks and cliffs and trees, will slowly build up ice anytime that it's below 32 degrees. And that's part of the reason why these trees are so stressed and they grow in these funky patterns. And it is the reason why this area of the Gorge Trail, Trail number 1 in Letchworth, closes in the winter, because that ice buildup is inevitable. Sometimes it'll build up feet of ice right on the trail. These trees seem to be pretty stressed by the ice that hangs from their branches and weighs down their limbs in the wintertime. But for the most part, they're surviving just fine. The trees are distorted in these strange yoga poses, but for the most part, they're pretty healthy. Some of the oldest trees in Letchworth State Park live in very hostile habitat conditions. They grow very slowly, and they can live for hundreds of years. I'm most specifically talking about the cedar trees that grow on the cliff edges. Some of our cedars are not much taller than a grown-up person, but they're some of the oldest trees in the park. There are some cedars that have been recovered from the gorge in Letchworth State Park after they've fallen that have been over 200, over 300, even over 400 years old. And they're growing in an extremely hostile condition that stresses them out, just like these bigger trees around here. But they can live for hundreds of years, and when they live to be that old, they can have evidence of past weather patterns in their growth rings. Even these trees can't live forever. So when they die, our naturalists are some of the first on the scene. We will cut the trees and count those rings to see how old it is, and we'll look for patterns in the growth ring size. And sometimes, if you find a growth ring that's very narrow or very thick, that can be scientific evidence of the weather conditions in that particular year. If it's very favorable growth conditions with nice rain and nice sun for that tree, there might be a nice thick growth ring for that year for that tree. But if it's a very harsh year with a harsh winter or a rainstorm that's cracking off branches and causing damage, it might be a very thin ring where the tree didn't grow very much. If we're able to find lots of different old trees in the area with a very thick ring at a certain year or a very thin ring in a certain year, we can use that as scientific evidence to back up claims that there was a very harsh windstorm or a very harsh snowstorm in a certain year, even 100 years or more in the past. It is a fascinating way that trees growing in some of the harshest, most hostile environments in Letchworth can benefit scientists generations into the future. Well, thank you so much for joining me for today's Nature Mystery. If you have any questions about the trees of Letchworth State Park and the harsh environments they can live in, please put a comment in the comment section below the video. Share this video with your friends to put their nature detective skills to the test. And as always, like Letchworth State Park's Facebook page, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to us on YouTube to stay tuned for more nature mysteries.